Good afternoon and welcome everyone to the Sonoma Community Center here in Sonoma Valley, California. My name is Jill Valavanis. I'm the Visual Arts Manager here at the Sonoma Community Center, and I'm here with Jane Ingram Allen and Jami Taback. They are the artists whose work is in our Gallery 212. The name of their work is called In Deep Water. It's a collaborative installation of handmade paper with hand-printed and embellished surfaces on that paper. If you're local or nearby, you're welcome to come to the gallery and view this beautiful installation for the next couple of weeks. Masks are required inside the building and a current vaccination record or a negative COVID test if you'd like to come see the show. But it's a beautiful show and we'd love you to see it. A week ago, Jami and Jane gave an artist talk in the gallery, so if you don't live nearby, you're welcome to click on the link to the recording of that presentation from last week, and you'll have a beautiful walkthrough and some close-ups of the work in the gallery. So I'm delighted to have Jami and Jane back again this week to show a little bit about their technique of producing the work that you see in the gallery. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to them, but just a little bit of housekeeping. If our Wi-Fi drops, just hang tight and I'll work hard to get it reestablished. If you have questions, please go ahead and type them in the chat box and I'll relay them to Jami and Jane when it's convenient, or after the presentation, they'll be available for more questions. And keep yourself muted during the presentation. I think that's it. Enjoy, and I'm so happy that you're here. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, everyone. My name is Jane Ingram Allen, and I'm going to start today's program by showing you some paper making. I'm going to do some hand paper making here in the gallery, in the print studio. So I'm going to go over here now to the area we've set up. This area for the temporary paper making studio. And the first thing I want to show you is how the paper pulp is made. Paper pulp is made from plant fibers, and we use leaves, bark, and stems of different plants. In this case, for this project, I didn't go to all the trouble and time of making the pulp directly from the plant, but I ordered paper making supplies from a place in Brooklyn. And this is a sample of the blue jean pulp. You know, blue jeans are cotton and it's dyed with indigo and it makes a nice blue color paper. And this pulp is called abaca. And abaca comes from a relative of the banana plant. And as soon as you get it wet, you can put this pulp in a blender. Just a few pieces of it. You know, this is just to show you how this is done. And then you turn it on, and if your blender has an ice crush speed, that means, you know, it's possible to use it for paper making. And so, you know, you would make enough pulp to fill the whole vat. And you can see over here, this one has a kind of very light blue-gray pulp in it. And this tub has some orange-colored pulp. The pulp that's dyed, I have dyed with a fiber reactive cold water dye. And the method of paper making I use is a sort of modified Japanese technique. And I put formation aid in the tubs. And this is some formation aid. You can see it's a very slimy liquid. And you just stir that into your tub. it's sort of the magic ingredient in this method of paper making that makes it possible to do multiple layers and to make very thin but still strong paper. You can see this piece over here, really thin paper in multiple layers. The other thing you need for paper making is something to capture the fibers on. You can see this is just a wooden frame with some screening on it. And you get those wet to start. This part is called the decal, and it goes on top of the frame to control the edge of the paper when you form it. The other thing you use in the paper making process, these are felts. Traditionally it would be wool felt. This is just polyester felt from Joann Fabric. And the other thing I use in my way of making the paper is this non-woven interfacing fabric. It's just a smooth, cheap fabric that you can put the paper on when it's formed, and then I hang them up to dry. You'll see that in just a minute. So I'm getting all of this wet, putting it down here, and now I'm going to stir up the tub and try to form a sheet of paper. I'm going to start with the blue paper, and you go into the tub, flat on the bottom, lift it up, and then rock back and forth to distribute the fibers horizontally. Then the second dip, going to go in and go rock it back and forth vertically so that you're kind of layering the fibers, making it stronger. Okay? And since this piece is about water, I'm going to put some watermarks in it. It'll show up a lot better in the light. Okay, then I'm going to bring it over here, and this part is called cooching. And then we have a sponge here to sop up the excess water. And you're the human press, so you press on it, squeeze the excess water in another bucket, and then lift this up, and your piece of paper is transferred onto the interfacing or pellant fabric. Now in this process, you can put things into the paper. This is just a piece of a sort of trial print that Jami made, and it was a nice orange color. So I'm just going to lay that there. And let's see, I have another piece here. It works better if you tear these and if you get them wet before you put them in wherever you want to put them. Okay. And these soft brushes, help make sure everything stays down in place. And that would just fall off if it dried without something over it. So I'm going to put another layer of paper over it. And this time, maybe I'll use this as my paper making mold. You can see it's an embroidery hoop. It has some window screening on it, then a piece of like thin curtain fabric. And I'm going to dip it into this orange tub. Capture some of the fibers there. Then I'm going to lay it over here on top of this. And this is sort of composing the design of the paper as you're making it. So these patterns are in the paper itself, and then Jami's going to print on some of the paper we've already made and dried. And this stencil material that I use to make the, different designs on the mold is called buttercut. It's, a sticky back material, sort of like contact paper. And they call it buttercut because you can cut it easily with scissors. And when the mold is dry, you can stick it to the screening. And you can see I have some in different patterns here. Okay, after you've done that, you hang it up to dry. Just going to hang it right over here. And usually it will dry overnight, or you can take it down and iron it dry if you get impatient.
So it's still on the pellet?
Yeah. And when it's dry, you'd peel it off the pellet and use the pellet on again. Okay, that's just a normal size, 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. And you can, make it bigger. I have some bigger molds. I didn't bring them with me today in my studio in Santa Rosa. But I'm going to show you, I'm putting down a slightly bigger piece of Pellon now so I can show you how you can, make multiple layers and make it a little bit bigger. Okay, this time I'm going to start with this one that's kind of a grayish light blue. And the pulp in here is a mixture of abaca and kozo, which is a Japanese fiber that comes from the bark of the paper mulberry tree. So I'm going to go in. And second dip. Third dip. And if I wanted to put some watermarks in this, I could do that. I also have a squirt bottle here, and it just has water in it, and you can, do all kinds of lines with that. You can also put a different colored pulp in there and draw with it if you wanted to. Okay, I'm going to put this piece up here. Again, use the sponge to take some of the water out and to press it. It doesn't show up as much white on white there. All right. Now I'm going to make another piece of blue paper and combine the two. First dip. The blue's a little bit thicker. I think I'm just going to do two dips. Then I'm going to put it here and I'm going to overlap it a bit on the white so we get an interesting thing happening when the two overlap each other. Another thing we've done in this piece is use bits and pieces of thread. See, I had some here somewhere. I don't know where I put it now. It's okay. I'll just get some more. And this is cotton thread, And, you know, you can think of yourself as just kind of drawing with it. And, you know, we've used blue, orange, black, white, you know, all different colors of thread in this piece. I'll just put in a few here so you can see how that looks. And, you know, it's okay if they go into, you know, different parts of the paper. Put some up into the white. And again, you know, this brush helps to make everything stick. And again, you know, we can put another layer on top. This is another buttercut stencil on a smaller frame. And, you know, we put things in different patterns. You know, we were sort of making things wabi-sabi, which is a Japanese expression, just means not straight, even, you know, sort of letting chance happen. And, you know, I can make this one in the white pulp. Put it down here. Also make it in the orange pulp. This orange pulp has some cut up pieces of string and other paper just kind of scattered in it. So you can also do that. You can, you know, add things, people add things like flower petals and all that in their paper. And your paper doesn't always have to be square or rectangular. You know, you can make it be an irregular shape. Like I can put this one up here. And you can see that, you know, I didn't wait long enough for it to drain, so it got some out there, but that's okay. It's kind of interesting to let these things happen as you're making the paper. And then, you know, you're ready to hang it up to dry also. And let's see. I'll do one more, I think. There's time enough. And then we'll turn it over to Jami for some printmaking on the handmade paper. Okay, this is just a wooden frame. And what I do with it sometimes is just make a sort of temporary, it will keep the pulp from going in that frame, and I have to hold it as I do it. And you can see what it did. It left a hole in the paper there. So this is some of it very non-traditional paper making, but I did learn the traditional way of doing Japanese paper in Japan in a residency in Mino City, Japan, which is one of the famous paper making areas in Japan. Okay, I'm going to put another layer of this white. The white has some kozo in it that I got from Japan. Okay. All right, I think that's about enough. And now I'm going to turn it over to Jami, and she's going to show you some printmaking on the handmade paper. Thank you. And we'll have questions later. Okay.
Hi, I'm Jami Taback, and I'm very happy today to show you how we print on these beautiful papers that Jane has made. As you saw, her prints are dark and wet, but when they're finished, they're very bright blue, and they dry with all of these interesting markings in them, and they're ready to print on at this point. So I'm going to show you some interesting techniques, and we'll talk about this beautiful Griffin printing press here, and come over here and to show you some of the inks. So I have a nice workspace here provided by the Sonoma Community Center, and this is really wonderful. Everything I do is non-toxic, chemical-free printmaking. It took a long time for this process to get to this place where we could work in a healthy environment as printmakers. So I'm really happy to tell you that I'm using Cranfield etching inks today. And this is a modifier that is already mixed into it that helps you to wipe the ink from the surface of the plate. And then afterwards, I'm going to go to these nice, brilliant hot fire colors, and they complement the blue paper, and they are by Speedball, and they're a relief ink. A relief ink is a little stiffer. The intaglio ink, we want to be a little looser and fill into the spaces of the plates. So when you take the ink out of the container, you want to move it around and oxygenate it a little bit. Never just put it out there and start rolling. And the same we'll do with that. So I like working on these plates. They are solar plates made of polymer. A polymer resin is on them, and they accept a photo, they're photosensitive. So these are all exposed with an image over them to a few moments in sunlight, or you can use an exposure box. And then they're just rinsed with water afterwards and dried really carefully. And you get these incredible images. Jane and I have been working with these regularly. I call them storm warning, and they're related to all of this climate change that we're involved in. So the plates are very skinny. much thinner than a copper or zinc plate, so they need very little ink to happen. I'm gonna put on some nice gloves, and they're magnetic, and I'm on a magnetic base here, which makes it easier to ink and holds the plates instead of them sliding all over. And so I take a piece of a tarlatan fabric and just take a little ink and begin to introduce it to the plate. Don't need a lot. Just make sure it covers. There's very, very thin embossing in the plate. So I'm going to ink up a couple of them at once and show you that this was all very loose, the way Jane and I went about it. And like I said in the earlier talk the other day, we abandoned all traditional ways of placing the print and worrying about its placement on the paper, because the paper is so unusual and has its own nuances. And then I take a piece of, I find phone book paper works really well. And I just need to kind of keep a very flat hand and buff up the image in the plate, as you can see. Just very light. You don't want to press in or gouge the plate out in any way. Very sensitive to every mark on them. So for these two plates, I'm now going to clean the edges. Just wipe the edges. These were photographic images of some collage I had made, and I pushed them into black and white, created an image. So I'm going to come over to the plate, press now. So this is a etching press. It's very much works the same as it did in the 1200s when they were developed. Now I'm going to take off my inky gloves. And I've just sporadically, just the way Jane and I did for a long time through our process, was to let things happen. And what I was doing was just placing the plates let me take a smaller piece for starters here. They're all interesting papers. And I've just placed some of the paper here. Show you some of the bright orange, what it looks like after the paper is dried. And get some of this in here. Very untraditional. So this printing press, I'm going to put this piece of newsprint down to protect the blankets. And the press has got a base that's called a bed of the press. So these are the blankets, and they're felt. The bottom one is the one that would catch, it's called a catcher, and it catches the moisture out of the paper if we were making paper into damp. But we don't really have that today. The press is set, and we're going to go through.
So you set the pressure in advance?
I set the pressure in advance at, well, I guess it doesn't really matter, at 4. And And I pull up the blankets. Just get everything ready to come up. And then there's a lot of carbon in the ink, and they all mix with these circles, and they work on the plate. And then the plates are able to get a second printing off of them because the carbon in intaglio ink, and this in particular, is going to come around the other side of the press this time. We'll figure it out. And the carbon is very intense in the Cranfield ink, so that you can get a lot of ghost prints out of it, and artists really like that. So beyond that, we've ended up with more, and these are what hold up to the light and show a lot of imagery, and we've been printing on both sides of the paper. After that, I can, actually, let's put these here. After I do a few little prints of them, I wipe them and clean them off later on. And then we had two other plates like this. And I'm going to do a process again and ink the plates and go back to the press. Putting your gloves on and off is a lot of timing in this. There's a moment when you need very clean hands and a moment when you need your gloves like this. So. Back to the tarlatan. These plates are very sensitive. They have to be handled perfectly and gentle. They can still be marked up. And then once again. A little bit all over the place. The reason we use, printmakers use the phone books is because there's the ink, there's polishing agent in the ink of the paper itself, and it helps to polish up the plates. And then once again, we clean the edges nicely. The little plates. I want to have a nice, clean plate, a little buff. And take the plates up, put them back down on the press. I just want to wipe away some of the ink that was left on the bed of the press. Clean that up good. Gloves off. Over to the paper. We have an interesting piece here. So the press has a heavy wheel on top and it has a wheel on the bottom of the bed, and as you tighten everything here, it pulls the two rollers together tight, and some presses can apply up to 800 pounds of pressure. The diameter of these rollers is pretty much the same in the 7 or 8 inch diameter. And they really haven't changed in all of these hundreds of years. And the other process we used didn't incorporate the printing press. It was used on linoleum block prints, and we used a baron to press the ink into the paper. And I did that because some of our imagery had to do with swirling and that kind of movement. So I took these plates. I thought it would be fun to show you that along with the carbon, which is symbolic of a carbon footprint. I have a nice brayer here. I can bring down the color and not really mix it completely so that you see you're getting this nice mixture of colors. And can kind of get to be a little painterly with the roller. And get a nice coating. And you can print these through the press, and that's very impactful and also. But for us, we have these interesting papers here. Let me picking them out as part of the fun. And this one has this image of the watermarks that we placed in, and then I go with a baron, and I have a little extra piece of paper to protect our very fine paper. And then it's a matter of just rolling around, and you could feel that under the baron, you can feel the ink coming through. And this sort of, instead of it being locked into the paper, it really ended up looking like a flare or a flame, like that. And then nice thing to do is reverse it again. Get a little more ink off of it. So this is a very traditional way of pulling a print that's off of a linoleum block. Starts to give you a little more of what I like to call in the weather part of it a maelstrom, and the storm that's out into the air. And then there's other things with the plate. We had other plates that was sort of like a zigzagging water, and I will demonstrate this, and that will be our finale. Get some of that nice, intense orange. It's fun to choose the papers. Some of them have little windows in them. That's from the transparencies we use to make the plates and get the image in them. Here we are. And then we used everything that we could and reused everything we could. And one of them was to embed the transparency into the paper, and it really took the ink fun. And here you are, another plate. And I hope you enjoyed seeing how we made the paper today and how we embellished them with our images and how much fun it can be. Both Jane and I have studios in our home in Santa Rosa, and we have students come regularly to learn these wonderful process. So thank you, Jill.
That was fun.
That was fun, Jane. Yes. Yeah, it's a.
Here come some questions.
Oh, good. Okay.
Okay, so
How
if,
did you imprint the transparency onto the paper?
The transparency is embellished. Oh, how did we put it into the paper?
I'll show you.
Yes. Much the way that Jane put the little pieces of paper down there. Here's a sample of it. This was actually used to create a plate for Jane. Jane also has her images in the process.
I just made a drawing, an ink drawing, and then Jami made the plate.
Put it into the format.
And you can see this is just a clear plastic sheet. Mm-hmm. And so I thought it'd be really neat to have windows with that sort of ink imagery.
Yeah, one day
in the paper.
Yeah, one day I came to the studio and Jane was incredibly excited. And I came over to see that she had actually put windows into the paper, and the excitement was beyond. Just the idea of giving another dimension. And when you see the larger piece, the light comes through these little windows. And,
yeah, we made holes as well as windows in the handmade paper. So that, you know, the really exciting thing about this particular paper is that it's very thin, but still strong. And, you know, when light comes through it, it's just really exciting to us.
I really enjoyed these elements of tearing and burning the paper and altering it, much the same as what happens to the planet when fire reeks through and flooding and all of these horrible disasters we're having sort of have, these elements have collided onto the paper for us into one expression.
Yeah. So any other questions?
Can you tell a little more about the burning process?
Oh, okay.
From lighting the paper on fire.
I have the, we use like birthday candles. And
Come over here.
we don't, yeah, I will.
Here, work over here, Jane.
And we just lit a small candle with a flame. And this is one piece that, you know, has already been made, dried, and printed on. And we, I painted it with flame retardant. And flame retardant is what's used on clothing and stage props and everything to keep them from burning in public places. And so I had used it on some of my public art pieces, and I knew it would work. It keeps the flame from spreading. And so
Here,
if
you light this up.
all right, you hold that. Don't try this at home.
She's better with that thing than I am. There you go.
Okay.
Stay away from your plastic bin.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to put it over here on the glass, I think.
Yeah.
That'd be a safe place. All right, so just try a little bit. And you can see what it does. It gives you the charcoal effect.
Oh.
And we can smother it. And, you know, that's how you got some of the really interesting areas in the piece that you see. And we can keep that and join it with the threads. But it really makes beautiful forms, colors. You know, you get the effect of fire by burning the paper.
Actually, they call this sometimes terrible beauty.
Yeah.
And we find in what's left.
And you
there's
control
interest.
it by the flame retardant, or, you know, getting a piece of wet towel or something and putting on it if it gets out of control. And I had done pieces before using burned paper, and I thought it really went well with this because we're talking about climate change and all the effects, especially here we have with wildfires.
Yeah, which brings us
So
to this
that's
project.
just a brief demonstration of that. It's always exciting to see.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
How to place the threads after it's dry.
How to what?
Place the threads.
Oh, okay.
We sort of took
I was
lots of
going
these
to do
threads.
that, but I don't know if we could have it set up. We can do that. Let's see. I don't, okay. I can put it over here.
Where do you want to work?
Where Jamie's got her
Okay.
camera,
Good.
and that'll be easy to see, I think. The thread is a design element. It contributes to the piece, but it also performs a function. It joins them together and makes them, I guess we'll turn it this way. Turn one.
What we did.
And so what we did is just take
We sort of started
threads. We put loops at the top so it could hang easily.
and they help support all of the paper.
And you can use different thicknesses of thread, have them go in, swirls like we did with the prints and the paper making. And we put 3 loops on each one so that, each panel would have a way of joining it together. And then for attaching the threads to the paper, I used acrylic soft gel matte. And we just painted it on with a paintbrush.
Can you show the edge of the jar to the camera so we can see what that color is?
Soft gel matte,
Okay.
medium by Golden.
Yeah.
And
It's
then
soft gel and it stays flexible still. So this paper panel, the ones we have in the gallery about, I guess maybe 16 feet long, and they can all still fold up at the thread parts and, be easy to store and transport. And the gel also has, what do they call it, to keep the sun from fading, the UV protectants in it, and it strengthens the paper as well when you put it on there. So it's a functional thing, but it's also an aesthetic thing. And it makes, these clear spaces in between the paper. I hope that sort of shows that part of the process. Mm-hmm. And we would usually work on a clear plastic sheet, mm-hmm, because this is going to stick to the paper,
but I had to cover the ink up. And then we just work our way, and actually we put these out, 15 of them to be 15 feet long. And so we walked with the threads and used a lot and walked all the way to the end of the table and back to cover all of them.
Yeah, I put several tables together in my studio, so we had this long, narrow 2 feet by 12 foot space to work in, to make all of those panels.
How long does it take that gel to dry?
Oh, it'll dry pretty quickly. I put fans on it. And
is it overnight?
Overnight. It was a little hard sometimes when it was very rainy. It might take longer, but yeah, it would usually be dry, and then you just peel it off of the plastic sheeting and use the sheeting again for the next panel.
Right.
No questions? You're welcome to unmute and ask if you'd rather not type.
Yeah, I wish you could all be here to see it in person.
Yeah.
Of course, it's always easier to see any kind of demonstration, and almost any artwork, it's better to see it in real life. So hopefully you'll be able to come see this installation before it's taken down.
Yes.
Jami, can you tell us a little bit about the printmaking workshop you'll be presenting?
Oh, sure. On March 5th, I'll be teaching a mandala monoprint workshop here for all day at the Sonoma Community Center. And all are welcome. Any level of printmaking is welcomed, even if you've never printed before. And for more advanced printmakers, this is an interesting process and a way to create an actual image of a mandala, if you like.
And I also offer papermaking workshops in my studio in Santa Rosa. Mm-hmm. They don't really have it set up for papermaking here at the community center. And I also teach at other places around the country and internationally. I think, papermaking is an exciting thing, and it really goes well with printmaking.
Oh, yeah, it's a perfect union. And yes, we have a lot of teaching experience between the two of us.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Jane, I'd love you to come and teach a papermaking class here.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it would have to be, you know, a special occasion and, you know, bringing all the stuff to set it up, which is possible.
Both processes have a lot of what I call moving parts and things to bring and everything to remember to make the experience go smoothly and successfully.
All right, any final questions? All right, oh, we got one more. Oh.
One more?
How much longer will the show be up, and what are the open times?
Well, we understand that we're allowed to keep the show up through May, into May. We were going to be taking it down in a week or so, but I'm so grateful we're not, because it's a lot of work, and to let it be exhibited here is really unique. And Jane and I have been meeting very small groups here already to talk about and view the installation.
Yeah, so I would suggest that people either contact one of us or Jill here at the center, you know, before you make a special trip. But the center is open every day, Monday through Friday, from 10 until 4. So, you know, small groups, no more than 4 people can come in at any time, Monday through Friday, to see the piece, the installation, and walk through it. And then,
experience.
you know, we'll put up on the website when it's coming down so that, you know, you'll know for sure that it's still up, okay?
And we will be expanding on this and altering the expression of what we're doing, and we'll be exhibiting from November through December at Gallery Route 1 in Point Reyes up here in Northern California. There's a space there that's dedicated to environmentally and eco-friendly subject. So you can see a more expanded exhibition.
And I just think we ought to say again, a big thank you to the Foundation for Contemporary Arts for giving us a small emergency grant to make this exhibition possible here at Sonoma Community Center in January. We, you know, started this project about August, I think, and then we worked very hard in November, December, you know, trying to get a lot made so that we would have enough to make a wonderful installation in this beautiful gallery space. Okay.
A couple last final words. Again, thank you for joining us today. You can find more information at www.sonomacommunitycenter.org. Information about the gallery showing, and I'll be updating the closing date because we don't have that solidly set yet, but we are extending the exhibition. And you can also find information about Jami's upcoming mandala monoprint class. And I encourage you all to sign up for our newsletter. It comes out every other week and just has information about upcoming classes, events, and exhibitions. So if you're anywhere in Sonoma, you can come and join us, and we do offer a lot of virtual classes as well.
That's
Yeah.
very nice.
So we reach
Thank you.
people all over the world. So
All right.
thanks again for joining us. I would love it if you would unmute now and give a round of applause and a thank you to Jami and Jane for sharing their fabulous techniques today.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Jami and Jane.
Thank you.
Hey, awesome.
Hey.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you all.
Bye, Grandma.
Oh, my goodness.
Savannah's here. Hi, Mom.
Savannah.
Yeah.
Hi there.
She really liked watching them make their paper. So.
Oh, yeah, it's exciting. It's like magic. Thank you for coming.
Okay. Bye, Mom. See you soon.
Bye. See you later.